Okay, what we're going to be doing today is lesson 6.4, which is solving absolute value equations and inequalities. So if you remember what we were doing, we're solving inequalities in the last few sections, okay? So we would just find that x is less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to, and we would find an equation. But now we've got absolute value bars that we're going to have to find, okay? So an absolute value equation, we know that absolute value always has to be a positive answer. So if you look right here, the absolute value of x is 10, which is a positive 10. Absolute value of x is positive 25. But when I'm looking for what I can plug in here for x, you will always have two answers. Because x, I can plug in a 10 for x and say the absolute value of 10 is 10. But I could also say the absolute value of negative 10 is also 10. And so I'm always going to have two answers for x. So I know that x can equal positive 10 and negative 10. So for absolute value equations, when they're looking for what can I plug inside of the absolute value bars, I should always have two answers. So let's look in here. What numbers could I plug in for x that would have the absolute value of positive 25? Well, I could plug in positive 25 and negative 25. Okay, so these would be my two answers. So let's move on to when I actually have an equation. All right, what you see here is I have x minus 2 is equal to 5, and is the absolute value of x minus 2. The easiest way for me to tell you to do these is, like we said, an absolute value problem will always have two answers when I'm looking for what x is. So the easiest way to do it is write x minus 2 is equal to 5, and x minus 2 is equal to negative 5. So what you can do here is basically you just drop the bars and you write it twice. One with a positive answer, one with a negative answer, because that will give me those two numbers that I can plug in for x, okay? So step 1, you drop the bars. Step 2, write it twice, one with the positive answer and one with a negative answer. And then I can just solve it like a regular problem. So I would add 2 to both sides, and I get x is equal to 7. I know that's one of my answers. Do the exact same thing. Add 2 to both sides, but this time I have negative 5 plus 2, which is negative 3. So the two numbers I could plug in here would be negative 3 and positive 7. Okay, so step 1, drop the bars. So I write x minus 4 equals 8. Step 2, write it again, but with a negative answer or an opposite answer. So x minus 4 is equal to negative 8. I just write it twice, and then you can solve it. So I add 4 to both sides, and I get x is equal to 12. Again, add 4 to both sides. This time, x is equal to negative 4. So you should always have two answers for absolute value equations. Step number 1, drop the bars. You always have to drop the bars first. I never want to keep working with those bars on. Then write the equation twice, one with a positive answer, one with a negative answer. Okay? So the next type of problem, okay? When you are solving absolute value equations, the only thing that can be on one side is the absolute value. If there is anything on the same side as the absolute value, I have to move that first before I can do anything. So I look and I see, okay, this negative 5 is on the same side as the absolute value. So I need to add 5 first. Then I have the absolute value of 2x minus 7 is equal to 9. Now I can drop the bars and write it twice. So let's write 2x minus 7 is equal to 9, and 2x minus 7 is equal to negative 9. So I add 7 to both sides, and I get 2x is equal to 16. Divide by 2, and x is equal to 8. That's my first answer. Second answer, add 7 to both sides. 2x is equal to negative 2. Divide by 2, and x is equal to negative 1. Okay, so that's how you would do that. So look right here. Are the absolute value bars the only thing on that side of the equation by themselves? No, there's a positive 3 there. So I have to move that first. So I subtract 3 on both sides, and I get the absolute value of 5x plus 1 is equal to 11. I can drop the bars and write it twice. So I'm going to write 5x plus 1 is equal to 11, and 5x plus 1 is equal to negative 11. Subtract 1 on both sides, divide by 5, and x is equal to 2. Again, subtract 1 on both sides. 5x is equal to negative 12, so I divide by 5. And since I can't reduce that at all, I can just leave it as an improper fraction. Now, you could change it to a mixed number and make it negative 2 and 2 over 5 if you wanted to, but you don't have to. Okay? So now what we've got are absolute value inequalities. How many answers did we say an absolute value equation should have? 2. Always 2. Step number 1, we make sure that the absolute value is by itself on this side of the equation. If it's not, we have to move whatever. Then once we do that, we drop the bars and write the equation twice. One with a positive number, one with a negative number. So an inequality is going to follow the exact same thing, but we don't just have a standard equal sign. We have an inequality sign, which means something a little bit different for us. So I check. Let's follow our same steps. Is the absolute value the only thing on that side of the equation? Yes, it is. Okay, so now I can drop the bars and write it twice. So I'm going to write x minus 4 is less than 3, but when I go to write it the second time, I'm going to write x minus 4, and I change my sign as well. So I not only have to make the second answer a negative, I've got to flip the sign too. So the inequalities, you've got to remember there's two things. You drop the bars, rewrite it with a positive and a negative answer, but when you rewrite it with that second answer, you've also got to flip the inequality sign. And then I just solve it like I would regularly. Add 4 to both sides. X is less than 7. Okay, and then I would add 4 to both sides. And I can get x is greater than 1. Okay, so the next problem, let's do that one. I check. This is the only thing on that one side of the equation. So I drop the bars and write it once, but then I write it a second time. I flip my sign and change my answer to a negative. Now I can get my second answer. So I subtract 6 on both sides. X is, less than 2. Then subtract 6 on both sides. X is greater than negative 14. Okay, so remember, whenever you have an inequality, you drop the bars and you rewrite it once with your exact same problem that you had with a positive answer, and then rewrite with the opposite sign and a negative answer. Okay, last type of problems that we're going to do is the exact same thing. We're going to ask ourselves, is the absolute value the only thing on this side of the equation? No, it's not. I have a negative 3. So I need to add 3 first. If you don't add 3 first, okay, if you don't do that step first, you're going to get your answer wrong. It's not going to be correct. So then I have the absolute value of 2x minus 1 is greater than or equal to 9. So now I can drop the bars and write it twice. 2x minus 1 is greater than or equal to 9. And I also write 2x minus 1 is less than or equal to negative 9. Flip my inequality, change it to a negative answer. Add 1 to both sides. 2x is greater than or equal to 10. Divide by 2. And x is greater than or equal to 5. Okay, this one I add 1 to both sides. And I get, I'm going to move right down here, 2x is less than or equal to negative 8. Divide by 2 on both sides. And x is less than or equal to negative 4. Now don't forget, remember what we've learned in our other chapters. If I ever have to multiply or divide by a negative number, I have to flip the sign. But luckily we did not have to do that yet. Okay? This is how we do these two. Now, let's look at this next problem. And I'm going to go ahead and erase this so that you can see clearly. First of all, I need to check, is this the only thing on this side of the equation by itself? No. So I have to subtract 4 first, and I get the absolute value of 3x minus 3 is greater than or equal to 6. Now I can drop the bars and write it twice. So I'm going to write 3x minus 3 is greater than or equal to 6. And I'm also going to write 3x minus 3 is less than or equal to negative 6. So I add 3 to both sides. 3x is greater than or equal to 9. Divide by 3. And x is greater than or equal to 3. Okay, same thing. Add 3 to both sides. 3x is less than or equal to negative 3. Divide by 3. X is less than or equal to negative 1. And that's how I would solve my absolute value inequalities. Remember, when you're solving these problems, you always want to make sure the absolute value is the only thing on the side of the equation, then drop the bars and write your equation or inequality twice, once with the positive answer, once with the negative answer.